Hi guys, Mrs. Mandridge here, your favorite 8th grade science teacher, down here in the corner. Hey, I am not able to be at school today, and I want you to know a couple things. First of all, I miss you. Second of all, I expect you to be beyond your best behavior for Mr. Gallant and for myself. And then there is an assignment that is due today. So I'm going to go through this little presentation here, and then you'll have an assignment in Schoology that you'll need to work on during class, and that will be due at the end of the hour. So we're starting off with a little mini challenge. It's called Minute to Win It. So here's what I need. I need you to find a sheet of paper, and I need one person in your group to be the writer. Okay, just on a sheet of paper. You're not going to turn this in, but you're going to brainstorm some ideas. And at the end of the minute, you are going to see who has the most, which table came up with the most ideas. So here's the Minute to Win It challenge. It says, in 1 minute, how many different things can your group think of that can be made from these ingredients? Okay, I'm going to move myself up here and show you the ingredients. I need you to get a piece of paper. I need you to get a pencil. I'm going to show the ingredients, and then I'm going to start the 1 minute timer. Okay, so as a table, brainstorm how many different things, different items could you make from these ingredients? Okay, so if you had eggs, flour, butter, sugar, milk, and yeast, what could you make? Could you make a cake? Could you make pizza dough? I want you to come up with a list starting now. Check out my 1 minute timer. What I want you to do as a group is come up with what you could make with these ingredients on paper. Get busy. I wish I had cool music. You have 30 seconds left. Write them down. What could you make? Be creative. Scrambled eggs. You could make it biscuits. Given lots of answers. Write them down. You have 18 seconds. Ten seconds left. Hurry, write them down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, that sound is not annoying. As a group, you should have come up with some different items that you could make with these ingredients. So I would like Mr. Gallant to pause the video, please. And I want your table to count how many items that you came up with, and then we're going to see who the winner is. Okay? So go ahead and pause the video now. The group that came up with the most items wins, and I will owe you a candy on Thursday. Okay. And we're back. Hey, I hope that your group came up with a lot of different items. Like I said, using some of the ingredients, you could have scrambled eggs, hard-boiled eggs, over easy eggs. It's just how you cook them, right? You could make a cake. You could make bread, biscuits, pancakes. You could have made pancakes. With just these ingredients, you could combine them in a lot of different ways. Well, it's the same with the elements on the periodic table. We don't find like a single atom of hydrogen or a single atom of oxygen just by itself most of the time in nature. We see a combination of the different ingredients or types of atoms, and based on the way that they're bonded together, we get different molecules and compounds. So today is all about elements, molecules, and compounds. Okay, on the following slides, I'm going to have a definition of element, molecule, and compound. After the whole video, you're going to pull up your worksheet, and you can go back to these slides to get your definition of element, molecule, and compound. Here's a hint. The definitions are in yellow Everything else will be written in white. So elements, we've talked about those, right? And elements are a pure substance that are made of only one kind of atom. So hydrogen atoms, helium atoms, cobalt atoms, okay, that is one of the elements on the periodic table, but they are made of one type of atom and they cannot even be chemically broken down, okay? So the atom is the basic building block of matter and an element is a unique type of atom, okay? Just so you know, there's over 100 known elements and fewer than 30 of those elements are really important to life. In fact, over 90% of living things are composed of just 4 atoms, okay, or 4 elements. So nitrogen, oxygen, carbon, and hydrogen, bonded in different ways, make up 90% of living things. So just like when we talked about what you could bake with eggs, flour, milk, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen bonded in different ways make 90% of the molecules that make up us. So when you get to the worksheet, here's the definition part that you need. Elements are pure substances that are only made of one kind of atom that cannot be chemically broken down. That's an element. What's a molecule? Miss Mandrich, I keep having to move around the screen. Okay, molecule is, you should know this from your matter bingo vocab, a group of 2 or more atoms that are joined by a bond. Okay, so like I said, we don't find atoms just by themselves in nature. Instead, they're into molecules and compounds. So a molecule is a group of any 2 or more atoms bonded together. There are some pictures here. Okay, the blue represents oxygen, red represents carbon, gray represents hydrogen. So right here I have a molecule of O2. They're both oxygen, but 2 of them bonded together. That's a molecule of O2. Here I have CO2. When you breathe out, okay, that is carbon dioxide, 1 carbon, 2 dioxide, 2 oxygens. We also have a molecule of water here, H2O, 2 hydrogens, 1 oxygen. Okay, so molecules can be just a few atoms together, like 2 atoms, 3 atoms, but it can also be a million atoms bonded together. So a molecule is any 2 or more atoms joined by a bond. There's a specific group within molecules called compounds, and that's the last thing that I'm going to talk about today. Compounds, okay, most elements interact with other elements to form compounds. So what is a compound, you might ask? A compound is a molecule that contains 2 different kinds of elements. So all compounds are molecules, but not all molecules are compounds. What does that mean, Miss Mandrich? I'll show you what I mean. All of these right here are molecules. O2 is a molecule, but is it a compound? Let's look back at our definition. It says a compound is a molecule with 2 or more different kinds of elements. Well, these are both oxygen. They're the same. So O2 is a molecule, but it's not a compound. What about CO2? I can tell from the color and from the name that there is carbon, C, and oxygen, O. There are 2 different elements here. So CO2 would be a compound. Same thing with H2O. I have hydrogen and oxygen, so I have a compound. Okay, the properties of a compound are nothing like the elements that make it up. So think about water. We take hydrogen gas and oxygen gas, combine them into liquid water. So we took 2 gases with very different properties, made them into liquid water. Okay, salt is my favorite example. NaCl, that is the formula for salt. That's the compound name. Okay, Na is sodium. Guess what? If you ate pure sodium, you would die. If you ate pure chlorine, Cl, you would also die. But when you put them together, Na and Cl, when they're bonded into a compound, it's just regular old table salt. We eat salt every day, right? Most of us. So the compound is nothing like the original elements that make it up. So when you go to write your definition, you need to include that it's a molecule that has two different kinds of elements or more, and that the properties of the compound are nothing like the elements that it's made of. Okay, that is the end of my presentation, but I have a video with this that I want to make sure that you guys see. So let's watch YouTube together. This video is called Element versus Compound. Brought to you by whatever ad is about to play.
Get ready, because K-5 Science is here. Let's explore.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math and Science. In this video, I'd like to talk about elements versus compounds.
Elements versus compounds.
An element is a pure substance. In other words, an element cannot be broken down into a simpler substance by physical or chemical means. An element is made up of only one type of atom. An atom consists of a proton, neutron, and an electron. Some common examples of elements would be carbon, oxygen, or iron. The elements are arranged on the periodic table based on their number of protons. For example, sodium has 11 protons. Potassium has 19. The number of protons of an element always stays the same. Each element also has its own unique set of properties. A compound is a pure substance of two or more elements chemically combined. Elements combine during a chemical change. A particle of a compound is called a molecule. When the elements combine chemically, a new substance is created. This compound has different properties than the elements that make it up. Hydrogen and oxygen are gases, but they combine to make liquid water. Here are some items that combine to make compounds. Table salt is sodium and chlorine. Glucose, a type of sugar, is made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. When elements create a compound, they always join in a specific ratio. The ratio of water is 2 hydrogen to 1 oxygen. If a compound has a different ratio of hydrogen to oxygen, then it is not water. Glucose, a type of sugar, has a ratio of 6 carbon to 12 hydrogen to 6 oxygen. Glucose will always have the same ratio. Compounds are all around you, in the food you eat, your school supplies, and even yourself. So there we go, elements versus compounds.
Okay, so here's my rule. If it's found on the periodic table, it's an element, and if it has more than one chemical symbol together, like CO2, it has the chemical symbol for carbon and oxygen, then it is a compound. So the reason I'm telling you this, if you go into Schoology, not yet, but in a minute, and you go into the Wednesday folder, you will see this assignment called Element, Molecule, and Compounds Worksheet. When you click on this, it will take you to a Google Doc, okay? Elements, Molecules, and Compounds. After it loads, it says, define each of the following terms in your own words. So guess what? Even if you don't use your own words, I loaded my Google Slides in there. So remember, the definitions are in yellow, like an element is a pure substance made of only one kind of atom. So right here, you're going to put your own definition for element, molecule, and compound. That's job number 1. Define those. You need to have like at least a sentence there to explain what each of those is. Then it says classify each of the materials below. When we classify, we're going to put it into a category. Those categories are going to be element or molecule. And if it's a molecule, only if it's a molecule, we're going to decide whether it's a compound. So everybody look up here, and it says in the center column, state whether the material is an element, molecule, or both, and I'll tell you what I mean there. And then if the material is a molecule, then you're going to further classify whether or not it is a compound. So let's do a couple together. First of all, we have gold. Notice in parentheses we have how many chemical symbols? 1. That's all. When we only have one chemical symbol, we're going to say that that's an element. And guess what? I don't even have to write anything over here because it's not a molecule. So I don't have to say if it's a compound or not. Next up is sugar. So delicious sugar is C12H22O11. Do I see different chemical symbols there? Do I see different elements? Yes, Miss Mandridge, we do. So since we see different elements, we're going to say yes, this is a molecule. And is it a compound? Yes, because it has carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Okay, the next one, I only see one chemical symbol there, so what is it going to be? The following one, multiple chemical symbols, so that's going to be a compound. Let's skip down to O2. Okay, O2, oxygen is an element, but that little 2 tells me that there's 2 oxygens bonded together. So is it an element, a compound, or both? Okay, it is actually both. I'm sorry, not a compound, both an element and a molecule. So I'm going to say both, but is it a compound? No, it's not a compound because the only element present is oxygen, but that little 2 tells me that there's 2 of them. So you guys are going to have the rest of class to go through and identify elements, molecules, and compounds. Remember, the only time that you have to say yes or no of a compound is if you identify the substance as a molecule. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys get started on this assignment. Please do your very best work. This is due today, and when you're done, you're going to submit through Schoology. Have a great day. Hope to see you tomorrow.